Today on Clubhouse Gas, Coach Jimmy Field from Whitefield Academy is back to help us with maybe some tips for game management. Maybe you're coming up this Saturday on your very first game. You've never been a head coach before. He's got a few easy tips that might help you make it through the big day. It's Coach Jimmy Fields from Whitefield Academy now on Clubhouse Gas. Coach, thank you so much for joining us again. Last time you were here, we talked about managing practice. Today we want to talk about managing a game. How do you prepare yourself for Friday night?
You know, it's all about going over scenarios, and it starts with, some parts of the game that sometimes, you tend to put on the back burner, the kicking game, the special teams, and going back to the practice week, we try to include that as a part of our normal practice, especially during our Tuesday, Wednesday practice, so that as we're strategically planning for the opponent offensively and defensively, that we incorporate that into our normal practice schedule, so that when it comes closer to Thursday and we're making those last-minute notes and preparations, that we've already gone over with the kids and prepared them. But, as for preparing ourselves, I think it's more of, do we have, for example, an onside kick team? Do we have that? Have we covered that? Does the kids know where they're supposed to? Do we have it on writing, and have those handy reminder sheets? So during the game, you can look over it. If a kid gets injured, you better have that handy reminder sheet so that you'll know, and you'll have a sub ready for that. All kind of different situations. I remember seeing when I was a graduate assistant at Alabama, I think they had over at the Bear Bryant Museum one of those handy sheets that Coach Bryant actually had, a manila folder that he had wadded up and probably carried with him. I think anybody ever made a football movie or a coaching movie, you'd have on game day the coach with a piece of paper wadded up in his hand, and that I reckon is his game management.
Right.
So that doesn't change. You got to have those mental notes, but you got to have those written notes to help keep you on the straight and narrow.
Today we have big laminated cards buckled to our belt with maybe pull-off strings, but it's the same basic situation.
Sure.
Is there anything for you that you dread thinking about a game situation that you just say, gosh, man, is it 4th and 1 on the 40? Is there a certain situation for you that call always gets you in a bind that you don't look forward to?
Well, anytime, when I feel like I'm the one making the decision.
Right.
I always feel like, and I've learned a long time ago, it's not so much what I think or what I feel, but what do the players feel? What do they think? I mean, if it's 4th down, and I may think we need to go for it, but if you look into the eyes of those kids and they're not with you, then you probably don't need to go for it. So I think it's I don't know so much you dread it, but that's nothing you'll know till you get in that situation.
Right.
If it's 4th and 1, do we need to go for it? That's the time not to look at that piece of paper. That's the time to look deep in the heart of those kids' eyes.
How do you manage your 2-point conversion situations? Do you have there are charts you can get off the internet when to go for 2? Do you have one of those charts, or is it just a feel thing?
I reckon after you coach so long, you kind of got it mentally. To be honest with you, by the time I pull that chart out and figured out where we were and have somebody interpret and read for me,
it's like a blackjack card.
We'd have to take 2 timeouts before we figured that thing out. So we'd rather conserve our timeouts, and certainly, the experience. That's where you rely on more than just yourself. A group of men, a group of coaching staffs. And to be honest, that's the one good thing about delegating authority. Not calling the offensive plays. Coach Peterson calling our offense here. Hopefully as we're getting ready to score, I can be talking with the other coaches. Hey, if we score, what do you think? Do we go for 2 or do we just go for the 1? And thinking about those situations. But the bottom line is going to, what do the kids want in those crucial moments?
For you talked about timeouts. As a hands-on coach, which is what I am, and hanging around you long enough, I can tell you're a hands-on coach. You get 3 timeouts a half. I found myself always wanting to call timeout. There was always something I wanted to talk to him about. Does the timeouts seem a burden sometimes that you don't have enough of them? And how do you manage those 3 timeouts?
Well, I think, it's always been kind of an unwritten rule with me. You've got 3, and they're there for a reason, to be used, especially, on any level, not just high school, but middle school, little league, and even the guys playing on Saturday and Sunday. Make adjustments. If you have to get in there and make an adjustment that, you need a timeout to actually pull the kids over and talk to them, to get them in the best position, then you got to do that. And obviously, the one thing though, once you start getting down to that one timeout, I think that's the one you want to avoid. You don't want to use that last timeout. If you're still in the first quarter, if you're in the third quarter, and you got a whole nother quarter to play, you want to leave yourself with at least one timeout, preferably two. So, calling that first timeout is not such a burden, but when you start getting into calling that second timeout, it's a lot of stress. You want to try to avoid that.
So for game management as a coach, you basically put the same requirements on yourself that you put on your players throughout the week. Just be prepared and be ready for anything, and it should take care of it.
Sure. You want to make adjustments. I think anybody that's been around football, on any level will tell you, once you get them there on Friday, once you get them on Saturday, they need to be prepared. They need to have been hopefully put in a position that gives them the best opportunity. But then once they're there, it's a matter of executing, and can those kids, carry out those assignments. And then, from time to time, there'll always be an adjustment here or there that you can help. Maybe, I found out this probably more times than I'd like to admit how wrong I am. I think that, this is the best way to defend them, or this is the best way to attack them, and I'm just convinced of that until about midway through the first quarter. And that's when you got to swallow your pride and say, hey, look, this ain't working, or sometimes halftime. But you got to be ready to make adjustments. And I think that's part of game management, going in with the staff saying, okay, this is what we believe is the best thing for our kids, but plan B, plan C, we'll keep that on the back burner. We might take a timeout, or might have a real prayer meeting come halftime.
All right, Coach. Well, thank you so much. That's great information. That's going to do it for us today, and we look forward to seeing you right back here next time for another great edition of Clubhouse Gas.